It's been a good while since we talked, right? When's the
Yeah,
last time we talked? About at least
three
2 weeks
weeks.
ago?
2 weeks or 3 weeks? Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
2 weeks.
So, what's up? What's happened in the past 3 or 2 weeks, or however long it's been, uh, that you want to talk about?
Well, I was on vacation with somebody who really opened my eyes to the kind of life that I'd like to have and the person that I'd like to be. So I've been thinking a little bit more about like this idea of success, because I know we've talked in the past a lot about how I have this vision for a career, or sort of what the life itself will look like, the things I'll have and what I'll be doing or whatever. But I haven't really sat down and tried to think about the person that I want to become, because I realize that if I picture myself in the future, my career, let's say successful, if that person isn't hardworking and diligent, I don't think I would be happy. I think a lot of my, not my misery, but a lot of my qualms about my life right now are mostly related to my struggle to actually put as much effort into something as I can. I feel more often than not I want to take the easy path. So if something doesn't require all of my effort, I just don't want to put it in. Um, but I don't like how that makes me feel. And so instead of focusing on this like idea of a lifestyle, or like the things that I want to have, or the career goals or whatever, I really want to just dial it back to something a little bit more simple and a little bit more manageable, like something that I could, it's like fully within my control, doesn't rely on anyone else having to say yes to me, or me like accomplishing anything outside of me. It's just more about this desire to stop making excuses to not do stuff. I was hoping that today we could go over maybe some strategies on how I can manage myself when I'm in more of a lower mood or a lower state, like where you have the difficult time finding the will. Like the will to sit down is stronger than the will to get up. Like on those days, like maybe if we could come up with a game plan of an exact step by step sort of thing, like as soon as I encounter that sensation of I don't want to go to the gym, then I'll do this kind of thing. And if we could walk through that, like, and try it out, because um, I just really want to parent myself a lot going forward, really be aware of what I'm thinking about, and stop like arguing myself out of doing something.
Okay. So I want to be a little bit thorough first. We can talk about that and start getting into individual examples of, okay, so I'm sitting on the couch, like the laundry's right there. How do I find myself in a position where I'm just the kind of person that says I'm going to do it and does the laundry? We can talk about that
Mm-hmm.
on its own. But
Okay.
I want to kind of be thorough and start. I want you to tell me if it's important to focus on this. We've talked about success a lot in the past, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's changing a little bit. Because I think what's really interesting is that you didn't come in today and say, well, I'm tired of feeling lazy and not doing the laundry when I see it. You came in saying that somebody else inspired you to think about the way you consider success. And in the past, right? If I would have talked to you about success, we would have talked about career, we would have talked about wealth, we would have talked about economic freedom, this kind of stuff. But now, somehow, this idea of doing the laundry, like being diligent with chores, has
Yeah.
crept its way into how we think about success. So, is that important to dig into, or do you feel like you understand the relationship and you just want to talk about the actual friction between you and doing stuff?
That's a good question. Like the thing that was said specifically, we were talking about the amount of people in Canada that are paying most of the taxes, and I haven't
Mm.
really been much of a taxpayer up until this point in my life. Like, I've never hit the bracket where I was. So I was thinking about that, and he like the way he described it was like, I think 20% of the people are carrying over half of the weight, and 40% of the people are carrying none of the weight. And it kind of made me think about like, what is my role? How am I participating? How am I giving back? It just kind of illuminated the fact that I felt like everybody else was doing the work for me. And I don't like that as an adult at this point in my life anymore. It's like one thing when you're really young, and so I don't know if we need to dive into. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, or if we should just go right into the strategy. But
Well, like I say all the time, you know more information about yourself than I ever will. Um, but I'll tell you something that does come to mind, which is, so it almost sounds like what the idea is that if we can figure out how to get you become a yes man when it comes to chores and mundane stuff and things for yourself, that's going to translate into a skill that is going to help you succeed at that kind of success of like giving back and contributing something positive and building something grand. So you almost see this as a transferable skill. Like if you can
yeah,
get yourself to be more considerate about basic things, you think this platforms you into doing this at a larger scale, into this larger concept of success.
yeah, because a lot of the reason why none of us start a business or like aim for something that would be challenging is because we have this idea that it would be too hard, or it would take too long, or there's too much at risk, or like I'm not good enough or smart enough to do it. Like those are some common ideas, or like what your family members think about that. Like, oh, you're taking a risk, and you might get some judgment from that side. And it's just so easy to come up with a reason not to. I want to learn how to like stop having this constant argument of why I should and shouldn't do something purely based on a feeling that I have right now. So it's not based on, is this idea aligned with me at all? Because like I understand that going to the gym is going to be hard work, but if I do it, I will be so glad I did. Versus like going to slave away at something like for some corporation that doesn't give a shit. Maybe they're polluting or killing something or whatever, and I'm just trying to get a paycheck. Like that doesn't feel aligned with me at all. So it's not about like whether I don't, or powering through something when I don't want to do it. I just want to power through the feeling that can overwhelm you whenever you know something's right for you, but you're just like, I don't feel like it, or I can do it later. Like that easy excuse. Like I don't want to make excuses anymore. Like I don't want to find a reason, oh, it's going to take too long to drive to the cafe downtown and sit there. Like I may as well sit at home. It's just, these excuses are just such, in my opinion, like our biggest obstacle between like a fun life and a boring life. Where you just sit around at home and do the bare minimum, or you go out and see things, hang out with people, face rejection, try shit, like the difference is whether you convince yourself to do it or not, right?
Okay. Let's take that example of you wanting to go out and do something, but you talk yourself out of it because the drive is too annoying.
Yeah.
How do you know that's an excuse instead of a reason?
Because that's a good question, actually. It would be one thing, like I think you just can tell the difference between something that's a little frivolous, like maybe if I wanted to go look at a frog for 5 minutes, driving 3 hours up there would be like, what are you doing? Because then it's 3 hours back, and it was just for 5 minutes, even though like that also could be the most exciting thing in the world for somebody, right? Like
Knowing you, it might be.
that was about to backpedal on that too. Honestly, I was like, wait a second, maybe. But I also kind of would want to be the person who would drive 3 hours to look at a frog for 5 minutes, because like that's life, isn't it? And so I don't know if there's ever really, like if you want to do something and something feels aligned with you, like it feels like worth it. And there might be instances where the cost is too high and it's just not worth it anymore, but I think most of what I struggle with is like things that don't really have that high of a cost.
So I'm going to pause this for a second just to talk about it while it's fresh in my mind. I'm going to suggest labels for these, and you tell me if you like these or not. So can we differentiate this by saying that so for example, driving 3 hours to see a frog, that's a bad decision. The 3 hour drive is a reason not to do it because it's an opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Right? versus if you had to drive for 20 minutes, or maybe there's a greater reward than just seeing one frog. Maybe there were two frogs, right? The challenge there would be that you were adverse to friction.
Right.
So if you can say no to something because you go, I have 3 hours of my day, I have a certain amount of money that I'm going to be willing to spend on gas, I would rather spend it on something else. So we're looking at the opportunity cost of what's it going to take me to go and achieve this thing, versus whether you're looking at that and just going, the drive's going to be annoying. But realistically, the opportunity that you would be giving up would be sitting at home and binge watching a show or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
usually the situation.
we have this so I'm going to give those like two labels of like opportunity cost and friction aversion.
Okay.
As like the difference, and one difference, right? That helps you understand when something is a reason and when something is an excuse.
Yeah. That's a good way of explaining it. And it's funny because a lot of the times my brain will trick me into thinking the excuse is the opportunity cost. I'll say like I should be doing something more productive with my time, and I'll end up scrolling or like thinking about what I should do, which can feel productive weirdly. And that will be the reason why I don't do something, which to me is ridiculous, because I've like literally spent years of my life in that loop of thinking I was like figuring something out when I was literally doing nothing.
So there's a lot of angles that we want to flesh that out from, but I think that's a really good one to start with, right? Is my brain tricks me into thinking it's not worth the opportunity cost, when in reality it's just me being adverse to friction. The beautiful thing about that is that tricks don't work as well when you know what they are, right? You don't fall for a bar trick when you know what the trick is, right? Because then you know that the guy has some sort of way to earn the $5 off of you.
Yeah.
So some of this is kind of slowly conditioning ourselves over time and sort of having that build up into a mindset adjustment.
Yeah.
But I think the other part of this can just be the specifics of it and understanding what those specific excuses sound like.
Okay.
Right? Giving them labels and, in a perfect world, quoting them. Right? So, for example, when you say, "Oh, the drive is too long," right? And you trick yourself into thinking that that's a reason not to do it. If you can keep that quote in the back of your head, it goes, whenever I catch myself saying that, I know that I'm playing tricks on myself, because I don't consider that a good excuse.
Yeah.
What I would consider a good reason is, well, that's going to take me 3 hours, and I would rather do this tonight. Right? So in a way, we're trying to isolate the friction from the task, right?
Yeah.
So would I rather go look at a frog, or would I rather go on a 2-hour bike ride, right?
Yeah.
We've completely taken away the idea of like, that 3-hour thing is annoying, or getting ready to get on my bike is annoying.
Yeah.
We just have the two rewards, and when we decide which one is a better use of our time that night or better use of our money that night, that's the one that we commit to, regardless of how much friction is in the way. That would kind of be like the radical approach to trying to overcome this friction aversion that you have. I do think it's worth kind of acknowledging that sometimes there's a certain amount of friction that is worth respecting.
Okay.
But since it sounds like you're in a place where you want to overcome that, I would suggest that it might be valuable to really approach this in a radical way, where like there's no amount of friction that I am going to give into if I've decided that I would rather get this than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that definitely aligns with how I want to especially live the summer, because I'm off. I have a lot of free time that I want to invest into something, like even if it's just living life a little bit. Going traveling a little bit, like getting in my car and driving somewhere that I would normally not go because it's just too far out of the way. So yeah, I kind of like that idea of just being a little bit radical with it, because I'm just trying to break out of a pattern that's become so deep, and I don't have a ton of responsibilities right now that would, make it kind of stupid for me to do that.
So putting this into practice, right? If I just hung up the call right now and said, good luck, right? How would you use this conversation to change what you're doing tomorrow?
Let's say I wanted to work on this one business idea that I have. Then I would probably do something like schedule 2 hours at a cafe to go work on it. So that way I'm getting myself out of the house. I'm doing something that has a little bit of friction, which is sitting down on a topic, even though I kind of like to like generally go with the flow of my emotions. So when I feel like doing something, I'll do it. When I don't feel like it, I won't do it. And then whenever that feeling of like I don't feel like it comes up, well, I guess like then what? Because my brain could be really good at convincing me. And even if I say, "Oh, this is just friction," my body will probably be like, "Yeah, but you can do it later," or like there's no deadline. There's no if you don't do this, then this bad thing will happen. And there's no like there's a reward, but it's not strong enough to feel enticing when you feel like that. Like it feels good when you feel good. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna get it. But then when you like kind of feel low or tired, then I find that is never really a motivating enough factor. And so, yeah, I just fear like how I'll respond in that moment of like, ugh, I just really would rather not do that right now. I'll think about it later. 'Cause like I don't always respect the schedule. I only do whenever somebody else is involved. That's the only time I 100% respect the schedule. And even then, I shouldn't even say 100%. I would say like 90%.
So I'm going to back up and frame this a little bit, right?
Okay.
So appreciating what you're saying about the schedule, but just to refocus, the strategy that we've been it's not even necessarily I guess it's kind of a strategy. The idea that we've been talking about isn't to make a schedule of things to do, because you've been there before.
Yeah.
Right? You've had things that you want to do and put them on a list and you go, I'm going to go knock it out, and that doesn't happen. I think everybody's been there before, right?
Yeah.
What we're doing is we're giving the schedule support with a new idea to make sure that what happens on it happens on it. Because if you had a schedule that was like eat ice cream at 2 and then eat gummy bears at 2 and then smoke weed at 3 and then play like if this schedule was just all this like hedonistic, really easy to do garbage, you would follow it with complete loyalty, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the idea is making sure that the schedule is supported. It's not that schedules don't work for you,
Okay.
right? It's that there are schedules of things that you have motivation to do, schedule of things you don't have motivation to do, schedules where it's planned out well, where it's feasible. So like the schedule isn't the part to focus on.
Okay.
Right, just to sort of back us up a little bit.
Yeah.
So the idea is, okay, we have a schedule of stuff we use, and I want to focus on what you said there, which is, using this conversation, label something as too high of an opportunity cost or something that has a lot of friction aversion to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that'd be a quick summary.
So just label. So if I, let's say, want to go to the gym, I just say, is this too high an opportunity cost because I could be studying Italian right now or something.
Exactly.
Or is this a friction thing? And then whenever it, in my case, is always just a friction thing. Like, is me just labeling it just enough? Like, I'm not pushing myself to do
Nope.
it? No?
No,
Okay.
it's definitely not enough. But, right, so everything you're saying is completely valid, but that's where I want to start, is that this is how we give, in my opinion, right, or at least what I think the psychological, like the literature's opinion on this would be,
Yeah.
that what we're doing with this is we're at least addressing the part of this that makes it easier to trick ourselves out of getting into with having kind of like this labeling idea. And you talked about how I quoted you earlier saying, I want to stop having this argument.
Mm-hmm.
In order to stop having an argument, you kind of need to win it first. Otherwise, it just drags in the back of your head. Like, once you win an argument 10 times in a row, then it's like, okay, we've been here before. I don't care about this. Move on.
Yeah.
Right? So we want to win an argument first. And I think the labels help us do that. It helps us spot winners and losers.
Okay.
The motivational work of it, I think, is another side of things completely. Right?
Okay.
As you and I have talked about before. However, this is one facet of it that this focuses on, right? So the idea isn't that this solves your problem, but that it addresses a really important part of it, which is that, let's say you're really motivated to do it and you're really excited, but then the friction gets in the way. Well, this is when this becomes an incredibly relevant strategy,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So when you have that list, I think you can come back to it with me and we can talk about it and talk about, like, why did this end up on your list? If you end up saying that every time you want to go to the gym, you end up going, well, I'd rather study Italian, and then you realize, hey, Justin, over the past month, I've just studied Italian and I haven't worked out once, we can look at why that's happening.
Yeah.
Right? So the motivational side of it, like the motivational work of it, I think we can talk about when we're looking at those items on the list in particular.
Okay.
But when we're talking about this global theme of I trick myself into thinking that excuses are reasons, I think that we can start by, because when I asked you what's the difference in a reason and excuse, you had to think about it, right? So we're using these labels to kind of shortcut ourselves to understanding
Yeah.
when we're okay with the reasoning that we're using,
Okay.
right? Because there's really no such thing as an excuse. An excuse is a reason that we have a judgment about. Right? But there's no like part of the brain that activates when we're making an excuse and no part of the brain that activates when we're putting a reason, right? Like it's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just that when we don't like the reason, we judge it as an excuse, right? So we need to have like a more sophisticated way to differentiate that.
Right. Okay.
That's the reason I'm suggesting this labeling idea
Yeah.
and why I think it's going to be a tool that's going to help you overcome this friction in a
Okay.
much more like long-term sustained way. And if you have that enough, I would like to think that it contributes to this idea that we can win the argument so that we're so good at having it and we're so clear on the points that we don't even entertain it anymore.
Yeah, that's ideal.
Right.
Ideal, because I've definitely noticed that with certain things that I got in the habit of doing, like the argument just stopped happening, and it would just be automatic, and it would cost me nothing. Like literally, it was a no-cost activity. I didn't feel like I was, I have to get through this, and I was expending a lot of energy or whatever. It would just like get done, and I was very present in it, and I really like that. And I just figured that like if I could just feel that with most of the stuff in my life, then it would be a breeze. Like why am I? It's the fighting it that like sucks your energy out of you, right?
So I want to definitely acknowledge what you were talking about where sometimes it doesn't feel like enough. But in terms of helping you, because there's a part of you that lit up there and identified with that idea of, oh, I've been there before, where I stop entertaining the argument because I realize it's not valid, and I like that about myself. When we talk about this idea of helping ourselves more clearly label when we're making excuses and when we're not, where we can catch ourselves making tricks, do you think that do you believe in that as an idea or a strategy that is going to help you get closer to that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because sometimes you need to, instead of trying to force yourself to do something, it's good to just sit with the fact that you're like you can't delude yourself about it. Like because if I can sit in delusion and think, yeah, I'm genuinely better off by not going to the gym right now because I really want to watch this TV show and I'm going to be so happy and it's good to relax sometimes, and like I can genuinely believe that. But if I just sit and label it and not push myself past that and just allow that to sort of sink in for a minute or two, I wonder if that would be enough. Like it would roll through my brain. I would realize that I'm just trying to, like my brain's playing a trick on me. And then at that point I could just, I would feel less resistant towards it because I'm not lying to myself. And I go, okay, yeah, like I'm going kind of thing. So I kind of like, it almost seems too easy to be true, but I'm willing to let that be like just enough. Like instead of trying to force it or whatever, I think that could be a good starting point to see like, does that have an impact, and does that work in the moments or in the times where I really don't feel like it. Like it's just calling yourself out enough.
Yeah, and if it's too easy to be true, I do think that it's a hedge, but kind of a necessary hedge to say it won't be that easy, and that it is something you have to practice. And then most importantly, that's one aspect of why it's hard to achieve a goal, because there's so many other reasons why it can be hard to be consistent with a goal.
Yeah.
Right. But if we make an improvement in one area, we make it that much easier, and maybe just as importantly, we isolate that as a reason that we have to focus on, right? It's like studying data in any way. The more variables you have, the harder it is to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Right? If you just have one thing that you're paying attention to, one thing that you're raising the temperature up and down on, then that's how you can nail perfection, right? So the more things that we kind of work out of the formula, the easier it is for us to iterate on that, and then that's how success ramps up and we get that hockey stick graph of like being really consistent with stuff.
Yeah.
So, if that makes sense, you know what I mean by hockey stick graph?
Well,
it's just like on a graph, like if you imagine a line going forward and then up, like like a lot of little progress, and then it shoots up instantly.
Okay, got it. Exponential growth.
Yes. Kind of, yeah. But just this idea that stuff snowballs, like we build momentum on things.
Yeah.
And so.
And I love momentum. And it's funny because the second I sit down, like it becomes like infinitely harder to do anything.
Yeah. So it sounded like there's a lot of you that was buying into it, especially since you almost got like cautious of your optimism because you're like, this sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if it's an idea worth committing to then for you, because I can only suggest stuff. I can't make you do it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think it's a simple enough question to ask, and like obviously it asks me to be aware of my thoughts in the moment, like as soon as I encounter something I have friction towards, like when I'm washing the dishes or I don't know, organizing my bedroom. Like I will have to catch myself in those moments, but I'm like pretty good at that already. I pretty much have like a dialogue running with myself at all times. So I think it's worth a shot just to see, like, is that enough to deflate the argument, to spot the trick in the bar and realize, like, I'd like to keep my $5, please, and go from there, because it's the things. Oh, there's a hummingbird. Sorry. There's a hummingbird in front of me. I've never seen one around here. That's amazing. Oh. Anyway, I think it could, just like recognizing that it's not true and I gotta do it. Like, it takes the choice out of it almost. I think it can take the choice out of it because that's what I really want. Like, it's so easy to keep a promise with a friend because you don't really have a choice in it. Like, if your word is important to you and showing up is important to you, then you show up. But when you're just showing up for yourself, like, it's difficult because you do have a choice in it. Like, at least in my case, I don't value showing up for myself as much as I do showing up for others for some reason, which maybe we could get into another time. But I think, yeah, if that can just deflate the choice part out of it, it's like I don't really have a choice. I either get tricked and lose my $5 or I don't. Like, then maybe it could be an effective strategy. But I'm definitely willing to put it in for the week until next time we chat and report back on, like, the efficacy of it.
Then I'll let you do that, right? So you have this idea that you get to test out. And it sounds like you're interested in trying it, and I mean, you know me, I'm always a fan of experimentation. In fact, I think that experimentation and iteration are the number one things kind of fucking missing from, like, modern self-improvement discussion. Is just, like, this all about, like, the top-down mindset. Like, now we just kind of try something and then make it a little bit better every time.
Yeah.
So, that's how I stand about things in general. So yeah, you have this idea you want to try.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of theories supporting the idea that it'll work, so I think there's a little bit of reason to be optimistic about it, and if we run into problems, then we can just address them, right?
Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah, I'll let you go do that then.
Cool. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, as usual. Until next week, when I hopefully report back with many successes.
Very formal. Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk next week.
Okay. Cool.